Hello all, I'm Anusha, an architect and a program associate at Novatr. We at Novatr are on a mission to build people who build a better tomorrow by empowering the AEC community with skills to create innovative and impactful futures. Through Novatr Stories, we will be exploring the unique career paths of our AEC leaders, their triumphs, challenges, and the lessons that they have learned along the journey. Today, we have the privilege of hosting architect Siddharth Jain, who is also a computational designer from India. He is currently working as a computational building physics specialist at OMRT in Netherlands. He's been driving sustainability and innovation after graduating from TU Delft and pursuing masters in architecture. He's also been a great mentor at Novator. And with that, I welcome you, Siddharth. We are so excited to have you with us and know more about your journey. So, welcome. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. So, Siddharth,
Nice.
today we are privileged to host you as part of our Novita series. So, we know that you have an incredible journey academically and professionally speaking. So, we want to know more about your journey and your story here. And we are glad to share it with our viewers today. So, guys, if you have any comments, any questions, please feel to put it in the comments or feel free to reach out to Siddharth or us at support at Novator. So, we'll be glad to answer your questions. So, to begin with, Siddharth, the first question I have for you is what were your dreams as a kid? What did the younger Siddharth dream to be? What were his aspirations? And who was he as a kid?
Ah, I think I'll put it in this way that never dreamed of architecture,
Okay.
was never great at sketching, was never like there was a thing right in school, like when we were like, oh, when you're sketching great, oh, you can become an architect. Never had anything like such. I still remember distinctively, I was just at like a family function, and then I was just like talking with few of my cousins, and I'm like, yeah, I want to become a robotics engineer. I
Okay.
am so passionate about robots, and I'm like, I really want to pursue that. Of course, eventually it never happened. But yeah, I think that was like my whole dreams to go to. But of course, when you move on and then you change paths. So yeah, but yeah, as a dream, I wanted to become a robotics engineer.
Do you think you're somewhere close to that or a little far away?
No, definitely. I feel like it's a circle that I came to Netherlands and I did my master's in architecture, but more focusing in robotics. So I joined like a robotics lab. I did
Okay.
projects with robotics. I did 3D printing with robotics. So it was like a part of the dream come true.
Okay.
Eventually it landed where I had imagined as like a kid. But yeah, for sure. I would say it's like when you manifest something, eventually a part of it or full of it just happens, you know.
Glad to hear that. And if I have to again, I'm just curious, like your family and your parents as their professions. I know because you're coming from a Indian city, Mumbai. So how was your childhood then?
Uh, yeah, I think the childhood was great. Like, of course, I wasn't like the most studious guy. I was always like, I was neither the backbencher, neither the topper. I was like in between,
Okay.
where, yeah, like you're there, people know you, but you are not like the shining star of the class. And
Okay.
that was same in bachelor's, like not bachelor's, but like 11th, 12th. I was
Okay.
still the same. And yeah, I think the childhood was majorly more or less just doing what every other kid does, I feel.
So, so when exactly did it happen to you that you wanted to pursue architecture, for your undergrad?
This is actually very funny that when I look back, I distinctively remember this was like after 11th or 12th standard in my college. And like, I was like, engineering, no, maybe not. And then at that time, like my father is a CA. Nobody in my entire family is an architect. Nobody. So I had
Oh,
no benchmark to look towards. But then he had this one client, which back in 2012, 2011 was like earning 1.5 to 2 lakhs a month, being an architect in a big firm in Mumbai. So my
Mm-hmm.
dad's like, oh, architecture has money, you should go for it, and this and that. And then I was like, okay, let's just go for it. And I was the worst student. I still remember my first quarter in my
Okay.
bachelor's. I was so bad. I was so bad because everybody over there is like great at sketching and like has some creative side to them. And I was the kid who was like, if I would draw a picture of somebody, they would be scared. So it just happened,
Okay.
to be honest. And yeah, but then eventually I found out my way through it.
Okay.
What I did is actually like in my second semester itself, I was like, okay, sketching not gonna happen. Not great at hand tools.
Okay.
Drafting and all is okay, but then that's where I like started diving into digital tools which can assist me to get to the end goal, because the
Okay.
goal is just to explain what is in your head,
Mm-hmm.
and if you can use any medium, that is fine. So
Okay.
from second year itself, like going from SketchUp to AutoCAD to what not tools, I
Mm-hmm.
started learning everything, whatever I could get my hands on. And there was like no formal training in my college as well. Like anybody would come and teach you all of this. I just learned it all off from the internet. And yeah, and then I use digital tools as one of my ways to express.
That's very interesting. So, like, was it the early years of your undergrad, like when you started to use digital tools? When did, and what was the first tool that you used? I'm assuming it's AutoCAD, but
I
anything?
think everybody's first tool in bachelor's is, and not now. Now the world has advanced a lot, but like back in 2013, 2014, I think I started with SketchUp,
Mm-hmm.
became decently good at SketchUp and like rendering a lot, and yeah, and a lot AutoCAD a lot. But then in fourth year, in my internship, I actually got introduced to a BIM software called as ArchiCAD,
Okay.
and that's where I took it to whole another level. Like,
Okay.
because then after that, I was just like, for 2 years, I was doing SketchUp, and all this while we had BIM software which can do all of this for like in, I don't know, fraction of a second.
Yeah.
So that's where I like really started getting into softwares from the second year itself, because my hand skills were not great in terms of sketching and all.
Yeah.
Painting and all were not great. So I used just digital realms to showcase the ideas.
Great. So then, let's say the tools that you picked up, be it SketchUp or ArchiCAD, like was it told to you by your faculty or was it the senior, any peers? Like, how did you end up learning the tool? Like, how did you begin learning the tool?
As I said, like for me, I was so bad at other things such as like drafting and painting and sketchings that
Yeah.
I was like came into architecture, and being from an Indian family, there is no way of like you, oh, let's just give up and then go to another course or take a break here. That doesn't exist in
Yeah.
India. So you power through it. It's like that. So
Okay.
that's where I was just like, okay, from like childhood, I was decently good at computers. Like I
Okay.
used to do coding in my 11th, 12th, like how you have science
Wow.
streams and then you have computer science. And then in computer science, you used to do basic C sharp, not C sharp, I think C++, and
Okay.
like basic coding. So I always had a knack for computers.
Okay.
So that's where I just randomly started scouting the internet and then started learning SketchUp and all the other tools.
Mm-hmm.
But I still remember the first tool was SketchUp, and for rendering and all, I used Corel Draw and everything.
Okay. So then, let's say by the end of your undergrad, maybe the fourth year, the fifth year, your thesis, how was that experience? Like, I'm assuming you have also done it using the digital tools, and maybe the journey just after it. How was it?
To be honest, till third year, I felt like I was in a bubble,
Okay.
because my college was like fairly new college. It was just like I was the third founding batch of that college. It's
Okay.
in a very remote place of Navi Mumbai, so no, very disconnected from the world. And I
Okay.
thought that I was in my bubble because I was doing very great at studies. Like I was always in top three. So I was the worst in childhood, like in high school and bachelor, like in 11th, 12th. But here I was like always from second semester onwards when I started picking up the digital tools and all. I was always in the top three to top four. And
Okay.
sometimes it's just still funny that my family sometimes is like they joke about it that it's not that you were great at it, the other people were not so great, hence you were in the top three. So don't take it in that manner. But this
Again,
is just a joke.
putting you in place.
Yeah, that's more like they are like they want to ground you well.
Yeah.
But coming back to the question, I think in fourth year, it was more of a turning point because using the digital tools, I just came across a company called as Sahik. There was this one person, Vikram Pawar, and he used to teach at Krivya. It's another college, and he's also has his own firm. So my dean was like junior of him, and then they needed some help in like for a water environment project.
Okay.
So he's like, okay, we need somebody who can make like digital like posters for a
Okay.
very big event where they wanted to like revive the whole rivers of Mumbai. So
Okay.
I just went, I did the work for him, and he liked me, you know. But then in fourth year, you always have to do an internship. And then I was like, okay, I just called him and I'm like, I'd actually dropped him a message like, hey, I'm really looking for internship. Is there a possibility to get an internship in your firm? And
Okay.
his firm was super small back then, just two people, he and his wife, and one person who has been working there. And he's like, we never hire interns because we never have the bandwidth to train them. And we
Okay.
use only ArchiCAD. If you know ArchiCAD, then you can join. Otherwise, I'm sorry for it.
Okay.
Like, we like you and all, but we won't be able to train you and everything. I'm like, okay, give me 2 days.
Yeah.
I went back. I hunted down every possible video of ArchiCAD. In 2 days, I came back to him and I was like, I know the basics. I can start. He's
Okay.
like, really? I was like, yeah. And then he gave me like a very quick thing. I was like, yeah, yeah, it's done. And he's like, okay, we'll give you an internship. That's where I think I got to learn so much about the industry and like how it's gone. Like also the good side, but also the dark sides of it. Like,
Okay.
oh, the pay scale is so low. Nevertheless, I think it was more like I came out of the bubble. Let's put it this way. I got into so much about digital tools like BIM, and that's where this whole thesis also came into picture. That I did my thesis like it was fairly in a very nascent stage. Let's put it this way. The topic was called as like use of computational tools in ecological buildings and landscapes,
Okay.
where it was so much more like, okay, how can you use computational tools to like enhance ecological buildings? So there's a part of sustainability into
Mm-hmm.
it, like more green, like not greenwashing, but like more green buildings in
Okay.
terms of having more landscapes and all. And then how
Mm-hmm.
can you use computational tools?
Okay.
However, I didn't knew any Rhino grasshopper.
Okay.
I just knew ArchiCAD, but then back then I and also none of my faculty members knew ArchiCAD, like any
Mhm.
digital tools like ArchiCAD or Rhino, and there was very little like back in 20 I think this is 17. There was
Okay.
very little videos out there which showcase Rhino grasshopper. I
Okay.
knew Rhino a little bit, a modeling, so it was more relate. Like put it more towards like form, like only parametric forms, like inspired by
Mhm.
Zahadi and all. So more like parametric forms, like more organic forms, and like more ideologies and everything, more processes. But it didn't like really leverage computational tools. But yeah, that's where I really got into computation. Like I used to do random small things in Rhino and like, okay, how can we connect ArchiCAD and Rhino? Is there tools? So I think
And
that's where I got into digital tools.
so this is all when you were in the final year of college. Like which year is this?
This is fifth year. Like this is the last year where I had to do my thesis.
Okay.
And that's where I was like, okay, ArchiCAD, like I still remember the file was so heavy because I'm doing organic forms and then
Mm-hmm.
pushing that to ArchiCAD, which is not meant for it, and then
Okay.
drawing plan sections, elevations from it. So it was pushing the software also to its limits where nobody knew how to do it. And I was just like trying to figure it out. But it turned out to be decent. I would say it wasn't the best in my opinion. Of course, when you look back at your work, you can always like do better. But I think
Yeah.
it was fairly decent at that level of knowledge I had.
Okay. So let's say then after the internship or after graduation, did you start working soon after, or like did you apply for a master's? What decision did you make at that point?
So, how it happened is just during my master, like my bachelor's as well, like during my, while I'm finishing, like halfway done to my thesis, like 6 months left, I got a call from my own internship office itself, where they're like,
Okay.
hey, we have a project. It's a big BIM project where they have to document the entire street of Dane Road. It's like a heritage street, which has almost 40 heritage buildings from Gothic times.
Okay.
And there's a metro going built to be built over there, and my office was commissioned to make a digital twin of it in
Mm-hmm.
BIM. And they're like, you were the best person in our office who could, like, because I got so better at BIM that
Mm-hmm.
after a year I was helping the office to like, okay, how can we improve BIM?
Okay.
And these guys have been using BIM for like 8, 9 years already.
Mm-hmm.
So I got back. So while doing my thesis, I already joined the company. And then the
Okay.
day I finished my graduation, next day itself, I full time started with my office. But because I was continuing on that project, and then I was like, I wouldn't call like myself as a BIM lead. I was majorly like the one who's deciding, like, okay, what process you're gonna take, because we literally documented each and every detail of those heritage facades
Mm-hmm.
to an of accuracy, drawing, like measuring each and every part in 2D and converting those into BIM. And that was a fairly amazing challenge. And it was great. We also did it. I have works of it, and it was a great experience. But then I was leading a team of 8 people
Mm-hmm.
where I was the least junior. People who have done like urban conservation masters and all, they were there. But it was a fun thing. It was a fun learning. And that's where I started my first job.
So basically, you were leading people who were more experienced than you just because you know the tool.
Yeah.
How is that working with people who are more experienced and teaching them that, this is a new tool and this is how it works?
Yeah, because there is like a from day one, this was a very typical office, right? Like for me, because this company was small, we were just 3 people and I was the fourth employee.
Yeah.
And for a while, we they never hired anybody. And we were
Okay.
doing a lot of nice like IIT projects and everything, more education projects. And when this project kicked in, I
Hmm.
joined in. And then of course we needed more people from urban conservation to like document the building. So they had their experiences,
Okay.
but they needed somebody to know how can we convert this into a digital twin.
Hmm.
So I knew BIM software, I knew the workflows. I just figured the whole workflow part of it. So there's no seniority over here. It was just like you are dedicated for one part of it. You set up a process, test it out, and then it should work that way. So it just
Yeah.
roles and responsibility. So it's not leading them. It's like they are doing their part and I'm doing my part. And then I'm just helping them learn the software to get better at it.
Very interesting. So
Yeah.
then after that, like how long were you working in the job and when exactly did you decide to go further with the master's or a specialization?
So I almost worked there for a year and a half after my graduation. And if
And
I consider,
was
so I
this?
think with Sahik only, like where I was doing my internship,
Okay.
I started working there halfway to my thesis. So I had like not graduated like 6 months. And then for after that, I worked there for another year and a half,
Okay.
where doing more educational projects, ecological projects, like ecological farmhouses and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I really honed my skills in like detailing and like going more in depth of like, yes, you have digital tools and all, but how do you get into detailing, into even detailing like a door for itself? Like
Understood.
we parametrically made a whole mandir ka door,
Mm-hmm.
which is super huge.
Mm-hmm.
And we made it from a sketch artist, like on this fall. We scaled it up because it
Okay.
had like a whole mandala on it. And then we sent it to a sculptor who made a whole 1:1 and then carved it out. And then the whole doorknob was also designed. So
Wow.
this is not using computational tools, but this is like how can you merge hand skills with like Corel Draw and then get accuracy to like an because a door with that level of detail, with it being so heavy, because it was like
O-
a 8 feet high door. So I
Okay.
think those experiences like really taught me into detailing and all. So like not just looking at forms and everything, but more going in depths of this. But then that's when I had this one thing in my head. If I'm ever doing my master's, I'm gonna take my bachelor thesis and only focus on computation. That's
Okay.
all my focus is. Because
Okay.
when I was working there, like the principal architect Vikram, he
Mm-hmm.
really helped me. He need
Okay.
not have like the digital tools understanding, but he has been like his company was almost 20 years old and he has been teaching for years. So
Okay.
he had a lot of knowledge. So he really like guided me like in terms of like, oh, there's digital tools, you can do this, you can do that. He didn't know how to do it. I
Okay.
figured them out by myself. But then that was really like a turning point where I'm like, okay, let's do masters,
Mm-hmm.
but solely focusing on computation. If there's no computation, I'm not doing masters.
Okay.
And that's where I started like hunting to a lot of universities. I applied to like 8 or 9 universities, got accepted to six, and then eventually came to TU Delft.
So what masters did you pursue at TU Delft?
So I pursued a master's in architecture only. So it's a
Okay.
generic master's, but also when I took it, I was actually never going to go to TU Delft. I was going to go to EAC, which is
Okay.
more in Spain, which is very well known for computation.
Yeah, I am
But
Barcelona.
then, yeah, IAC Barcelona. However, before choosing masters, I like because again I went to Vikram and like
Mm-hmm.
talking through it, and I was like, okay, if I do masters, let's zoom out what after masters.
Yeah.
So you should never just do masters by following a trend, being like, oh, people are going abroad, maybe making a lot of money and all. But you should like really zoom out and think it through. Like, okay, masters is a part of it, but there's so much more after it. So you have to think through it. So I was always going to go to EAC because that was the only well-known back then.
Yeah.
However, there was no stay back option. So like, okay, if you as a student, if you're going to take a debt of, I don't know, like 40 lakh rupees
Yeah.
INR, which is a very big amount, were you if you come back repaying with, because by that time I was already hit, right? The salaries are as low as like 20,000 INR for a person who's graduated 1 year and stayed
Yeah.
in the company for almost 2 years. You're getting then 20,000 rupees.
Yeah.
Which, and if I have to pay off my loans, it would take me like ages. Like I would become old by 40 years and still paying my loans.
Yeah.
So I even applied to EAC, even paid like a deposit of 2,000 euros. And the day
Oh,
I paid, I got, it was a non-refundable deposit. And I was like, okay, I made my choice. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go here. Uh, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll come back and I'll just take a teaching job to like repay the loans and everything. But then the day I repaid it, that day itself in the evening, I get like acceptance from TU Delft. And
okay.
then I'm like, okay, QDelf is not great in computation, barely any, like there are few things like robotics lab and everything, not much, but it gives you a stay back option of a year.
Yeah. Job search visa.
So job search visa, so that, and yeah, Barcelona didn't give back then. I don't think even they give it now. I had
Mm.
also applied to AA School of London.
Okay.
There that back then they didn't used to give, but I think when I joined after that a year later, they started giving like a year's stay back.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, Yak is great, A is great, but no, both of them don't have stay back. UDES back then was known like second best in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That was a myth that later when I came here, I understood that it was not my program, but it was like a postgrad program, which was
Okay.
second rated best in the world. But I just came.
Okay.
But what I tried to do is on day one itself, I went and met the course coordinator. And then
Okay.
I was like, hey, I'm here just to learn computation,
Mm.
nothing else.
Okay.
That's my sole focus. You
Okay.
help me knowing how can I get there.
Okay.
Because coming from an Indian background, you sometimes feel your tutors and your deans will really help you, like, spoon feed you everything. But it was a shocker. The first answer he gave me, he's like, ah, but you're in the wrong course, mate. What you can do is you can graduate from here from 2 years,
Okay.
do masters in this, and then take a different track called as building technology.
Okay.
And there you can get computation. And I was like, you want me to pay, I don't know, like 40 lakhs twice? 4 years, do 2 degrees to get into computation.
Yeah.
But it was a shocker. But what I tried to do is I hunted down every professor possible, looked at all the different courses,
Mm-hmm.
whichever had computation, I did them all. I
Okay.
even went to this robotics lab where they didn't have much projects. They did had only one project.
Mm-hmm.
Wrote her, I went to her, I am ready to do an internship. Don't pay me anything. I don't care. Don't even put me on paper. I just want to work here.
Okay.
Became an intern at robotics lab. I got to work on this one project where it's called as a crop project. They got the
Okay.
funding from ESA, which is like European Space Agency, to
Mm-hmm.
build to figure out research on how can you 3D print on Mars, like how can you make habitats on Mars.
Wow.
Super cool. Wrote a research paper with them with my name on it. It was really fun. Used That's where I actually learned hands-on computational tools, just by
Okay.
learning, by looking and learning. And then also I graduated with the same. Like I figured out a way of how I can graduate with that lab so that I could do thesis in my computation because I was hell bent on it. I was like, no, I'm not doing a generic master's, only computation because that's what I want to do. As a
Yeah.
person, I was like a person that if I do something and I don't like it, after 6 months I get bored from it and then I lose interest to work on it. And I don't want to come to my desk coming like slogging where I'm like, I'm too young to be in a position where like I'm just coming here and doing my job and going. I want fun in the work. So
So that,
long story short, I just hunted down everything, made the best of whatever is possible. And I
Mhm.
feel eventually it worked out. So I'm happy
Okay.
about it.
I'm also glad that it all worked out for you. So then, how is the? I know that you wanted to do something related to computational design, and the master's was, let's say, it was a little generic because it was master's in architecture, maybe the umbrella of things, cater to. But after that, the first job that you got in Europe, how did that happen, and what was the job role about?
Uh, so how did it happen so I think LinkedIn is one of the strongest tools.
Okay.
So what I did is from day one, started doing a lot of networking,
Okay.
be it with just people from AEC industry or people from everywhere. I
Okay.
joined a lot of social clubs, did a lot of like podcasting, like talking with a lot of people,
Okay.
whoever I could find. Because you
Okay.
never know. I've learned one thing in 5 years being in Netherlands. It's not the people in your field who can help you. There is so much outside your work. It's also that just connecting with random people, you never know when it might help or you help them. And it is a great way to learn.
Okay.
So networking is something I started at a very early time in my master's, like first year itself. And of
Mhm.
course, COVID hit. I was 3 months into the program and COVID hit. Entire thing online. Didn't meet anybody. Did my entire master's online. And I still remember there was this one lunch lecture happened by my current company, OMRT, where my founder came. And then I just dropped him a message using my same tactic. Hey, I am really fascinated by what your company does because it was a tech company doing computation. So I was like, this is perfect. They do computation, not just architecture. They're completely into hardcore tech. And it's a really
Mhm.
fun place to do internship. And it was a startup. It wasn't like a bigger company back then. So I dropped him a message and like how every other person you would happen that you get scene zoned, no responses. I was like,
Okay.
okay, I just dropped him one simple message. Hey, I'm really fascinated by your work.
Mhm.
If there's any possibility for an internship or any job positions, I will be willing to work there because I am really keen to work. And I
Okay.
have fairly decent experience also in BIM and computation. Didn't
Yeah.
have that much, but had decent because I was doing a lot of these studios in architecture. They call it studios, where it was all computation. So a lot of them I did. And he read it, didn't say anything. And I still remember this is a week before my graduation.
Hmm.
And I saw a post by him on LinkedIn where like, hey, we are looking for a computational engineer.
Hmm.
Dropped him a DM at that moment itself, where I'm like, hey, I saw there's a job opening. I'm graduating next week. Is there a possibility for me to apply? And then
Hmm.
he read my previous message, which was a year back. And then he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't respond to your message earlier. Let's have a chat
Okay.
in 10 minutes. And I was like, damn, I have no portfolio. I don't have anything. What am I going to do? Literally in 10 minutes, I took a Google slide, just put screenshots of my work, of India, of my keys, like here and there.
Yeah.
Just gave him a presentation of half an hour. And he's like, oh, nice, cool. What are you doing tomorrow? And I was like, nothing. Yeah, nothing. I was gonna be at my part-time job or like doing something. And then I just went with my current man, like with my back then manager, had a call, showed him my work, and he was like, oh, this is really nice. You have a lot of knack for computation. In an hour, he's like, here's the offer. When do you want to start? And I was like,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
graduating next week, which is like 30th of November. I can start on 1st of December.
Okay.
And then he's like, are you sure you don't need a break? I'm like, no, no. Being an Indian, who takes breaks? You have an opportunity, you go for it. And also back then, it's like COVID is happening, people are not getting jobs, and you have 1 year.
Which year was this? When the
This is
graduate?
2019. No, not 2019, 2021,
Okay, right after COVID.
right after COVID.
Yeah.
So it was, and being an international, getting a job is hard.
Yeah.
It's like convincing them to sponsor your visa is so difficult, be it anywhere in Europe. It's the
I
one of the most hardest things. And from day one, they were giving me permanent contract. I'm like, yes. I
okay.
didn't negotiate anything. I just said yes. Mainly because they were having computation.
Mm-hmm.
They were serving what I wanted. They were giving me a permanent contract, and I just said yes. It's worked out great. I'm still working here. It's been three and a half years ish, and it's going great. Let's put it this way.
I think you are one of the blessed ones who just worked out everything in your favor.
That's what, like, I'm telling you. That's what I'm saying. Like, for me, I'm just gonna say I'm grateful for the opportunities. It's not that I didn't work hard for it. I did work hard on my skills and everything.
Doubting that,
But
clearly.
but it just happened that the day I graduate, the next day I have jobs
Yeah.
because of networking, because of talking with a lot of people, and I think that just helped. Let's put it this way.
So now that we are aware that, as an architect, finding your interest in computational design, maybe the tools that you picked up way early, in your academic journey, maybe it all brought to you, especially the networking part again that you said. Now, as a professional, at this firm in Netherlands, if you could add how you have started, where you are at, and how has this entire 3.5 years journey has been for you as a professional.
It's been great. So I started as a computational engineer, worked for almost a year and a half on just doing projects and projects and projects. And in my company, we had short-term projects because we work at early stage designs. And my projects used to get over in 2 to 3 weeks. We get a research question, like a challenge. This is a piece of land. What's the max you can build? And in 2 weeks, we can generate up to 18,000 of possibilities
Okay.
with data. So it's
Okay.
not just fancy designs and it's not about form. It's mainly about financial feasibility. It's about environmental feasibility, that is it having any negative impact or not? And there's only one question which most of we answer. If suppose you are at early stage, are there any potential showstoppers in the future? Yes. Because that's where they're bidding their money for. And projects can get stuck in, at least in Netherlands, they can get stuck for years and years. Companies get bankrupt because of it. So at early stage, if we can tell them whether there is feasibility or not, and these guys understand money, at least like it depends. We have clients like developers, we have real estate people, we have architects, we have genre of people. So for a
Okay.
year and a half, I just did projects and projects and projects.
Okay.
Uh,
Sorry,
mhm.
like when you say feasibility, like is this like a 360 degrees, or is this particularly for, like, let's say on a energy efficiency or anything really? Like you also said financial feasibility. Like how does these all come together, or like what do first you focus on mostly?
So first we ask what the client wants.
Okay.
Like if the client will come back and he's purely looking from a money perspective, we're like,
Okay.
okay. We zoom out. I'm like, okay, this is what you're trying to build. These are certain boundary conditions which maybe the Comente has put or somebody else has put, that you cannot go beyond it, and their budgets and everything which they have. And at an early stage, we'll generate a lot of possibilities with keeping in mind that in the future you will have restrictions from environment. Like over here, they have a lot of environmental, like your
Okay.
shadow should not be more than 2 hours, the wind on the ground. So we had an entire building physics toolkit where you should do a
Okay.
lot of analyses with all of them together. So it's not
Okay.
that we do a design and then do finances, then do this. We do all of them together, and we bring
Understood.
all of this data in front of them, that okay, you can look at money but also be aware that there is certain impacts which is going to happen.
Understood.
Because there's one thing which I've learned: there's no perfect design. It's always a negotiation between
Mm-hmm.
different KPIs. Like KPIs are key performance indicators,
Mm-hmm.
and what does the client want, balancing it with what would be the potential showstoppers in the future. So it's
Yeah.
always a balance between them.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of projects, almost 50 projects in a year and a half.
Okay.
And I learned every possible like analyses which they had. So building physics, I did it on the job. I
Okay.
knew like basic sun hours and everything, but I
Okay.
got into more details of all the other analyses such as
Mm-hmm.
energy, daylight, wind simulation, sound simulations. So I learned all of them on the job.
Okay. So you started as a computational engineer, and at that point, like the analysis and all the toolkit that you're talking about as a building physics engineer, eventually that you are now. So, what tools did you learn on the job, or did it come with a mandate that this is a particular arsenal of software that you should be aware about? Anything that you can add on the software part of it? Like
I
what,
think there is always, sorry, continue.
yeah, what tools do you use as a particular specialist?
So at least back then they were like, okay, you should know Rhino Grasshopper and you should have basic knowledge of data structures and all the other like basic necessities, because I'm joining as a fresher.
Okay.
But of course, if you knew Ladybug tools and everything, then that was like an add-on. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, now it has become a mandate.
Okay.
Like the more better you know these tools, it would really help you. Because
Okay.
I took almost, my computational journey has started nearly from my fifth year. Of
Okay.
course, with Rhino Grasshopper, and computational tools is not just Grasshopper.
Okay.
It's a way of thinking. It is a lot more bigger than just tools. It's how
Okay.
you think, how you execute, how do you detail, how do you optimize. It's a lot more bigger than that.
Okay.
And my entire journey where I am, it took me almost 8 years of learning this. If,
Okay.
like, for example, if I look back, if there was Novatr back then, I would have done that course. And in 6 to 8 months, I would have learned at least the basic skills, which for me, it took almost, I don't know, like 5 years to learn.
Okay.
So I
So
did like, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so all the 3 years, were you at the same role, or do you have been transitioned to other roles, other projects within this 3 years? Anything that you can add on?
So I have this one thing in my head that I'm like, as I said, when I do one thing for way too long, when I become too comfortable, I start become lazy. And I was like, no, I need new challenges. So what I did is in three years, I've switched three positions within my company only. I'm not job switch companies within my company, because there's a lot of different things which you can learn. So
Okay.
I worked as a project manager for a year and a half, where I was
Okay.
just managing projects.
Okay.
But this is from a computational perspective, that okay, a client will ask, and this is more focusing on the client. I know
Mm-hmm.
the tools, I know how the tools work, what are the limitations and everything of it. And I was like, okay, the client is asking something. My major skill over there was, okay, how can you zoom out, frame the question in a way that we can effectively answer the question using our tools. So
Okay.
that was my job role for a year and a half. I managed almost 30 plus projects ish, scaling
Okay.
from a small building to a neighborhood level where there are like almost 35,000 meter square of area,
Okay.
which has
Okay.
almost like 900 houses or something like that. So even
Okay.
bigger projects I did. with like bigger companies and like a lot of different. But here I was majorly focusing on management. How
Okay.
can you, because client management is also one of the biggest challenges in computation.
I'm sure.
And how do you convey your data driven designs to them? They don't
Mm-hmm.
understand computation. For them, it's all a black box.
Okay.
How marketing happens in computation, it feels like as if it's a black box. You put something, magic happens, and then they give you everything and they solve everything. That's like a black box to them. But
Okay.
my major challenge was like, okay, educating them what computation is, what do we do, how can we help. So it's like really on the client side trying to make them understand. So that's where also I understand a little bit like, okay, computation is again beyond just the tools. It's
Mm-hmm.
the skills on how do you explain data to them who don't understand data, who don't understand tech.
Yeah. So, on that note, let's say, how does your day look like as a building physics engineer?
Nice question. So what I did again, switched my role. Now I'm a computational building physics specialist. It's a
Okay.
longer title, but it's in a simple terms, what I do is my company has processes. We have a lot of tools,
Mm-hmm.
and I specialize in CFD, which is computational fluid dynamics.
Okay.
And in simple terms, it's wind simulations.
Okay.
And I specialize in sound simulations. So I'm a
Okay.
more specialist now, where I take a deeper dive into the code itself.
Okay.
So not just executing and understanding on how to improve the tools.
Okay.
So literal, my work day is like I would get up and yeah, it's like how do I explain it in simple terms?
It's okay. You can go with the
Yeah.
technical terms.
So it's more like, okay, we have tools, we are better at it, but how can you take this further? So you have certain boundaries in terms of limits of what the tool can do. My job is
Okay.
literally to push the limits. So
Okay.
literally, like the world has come to a point where they are using machine learning to do CFD studies. So you're not actually performing a CFD study. It's just looking at patterns of what is the height of the building, what is the shape of the building,
Mm-hmm.
and they're generating very quick results with it. Like simulations, CFD, they're heavy. They're computationally heavy. They can take up to 8 to 9 hours to compute one direction.
Mm-hmm.
But in ML, using machine learning, where they have trained it on like, I don't know, like 10,000 wind steady data sets, they're
Okay.
able to generate it in 5 minutes. And it
Wow.
is crazy.
Okay.
So while I'm also getting into the depths of actually like in the code, in like literally going in algorithms and equations and whatnot, like there are so many terms which go bouncer to me. Like
Okay.
even learning like Linux and Ubuntu, which is like hardcore coding operating systems. I don't understand any of them, but like I'm getting into those. But
Yeah.
yeah, my job role is majorly now pushing the boundaries, learning what tools are there, how can we improve our tools, and it's not it's still connected to architecture, but more on the tech side now.
Okay.
So that's my
Interesting.
work day like.
Thank you for sharing that. And again, just to quickly summarize, like let's say that you have done a undergrad from India, you have done a master's from Europe, you have done a self-paced learning, going to the YouTube, learning a particular tool, and you are also passionate about something that you definitely want to pursue in your career. After all of this, and you have been working, 3 years in a company, you grew to different levels in that particular company itself. So as of now, how do you see the AC industry, evolving in the next 5 to 10 years, in the next decade? And we are already talking about like machine learning and AI, right? Any emerging trends, let's say, for young professionals that you think they should definitely focus on?
uh I would put it in one simple terms. The field is advancing every minute.
Okay.
There is innovation happening in every corner of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just now restricted to where countries like Europe or countries like US, which are developed, where there's innovation happening. There's innovation happening in India as well.
Yeah.
A is stay uh, connected. stay like be more curious of what's happening. So be aware of what's happening, keep yourself updated. What
Mm-hmm.
are the latest trends? And also go beyond the marketing gimmicks.
Okay.
So don't just look at fancy tools and like, oh, this is so cool, but go beyond it.
Okay.
Research more about it. Okay, there is AI, but AI is a buzzword.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of these companies where they're like, oh, we use AI in our workflow. Because of course they want more clients. That's a
Yeah.
marketing gimmick. Under the hood, it's just a C sharp script which is running, and like there is Python scripts which are doing machine learning where they've done a lot of data sets training and just
Yeah.
pooping out some results.
Okay.
So it's about going more in depths of it. So if you want to like have a jump start, be aware of it, be curious. And now there are so many tools which can help you learn faster. Literally,
Okay.
you can put an entire university's database into a machine learning model
Mm-hmm.
and ask it specific questions.
Okay.
And will give you specific answers and not hallucinate. Like it
Okay.
won't tell you an apple is a color of orange.
Okay.
If it is mentioned in that data set, it will then tell you that. Otherwise, it won't. So tools have become advanced. Now it's all about how do you leverage that tech. AI is
Okay.
not going to take your jobs, but this is a very fancy, like, I think this is, I've heard this a lot. The
Mm-hmm.
people who would leverage tech, I won't say AI, leverage tech in the future, will just get better at their jobs and do it faster. That's what the
Okay.
BIM revolution was. That was the computational revolution. And now it's like the tech revolution, which is just helping us move forward in a much more efficient manner.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about staying connected with the trends.
Yeah, it's mostly about who is going to use the tool in a much more efficient and a better approach.
Because see, if you can use the tools for marketing gimmicks, great.
Okay.
It's a short-lived fame. AI in rendering came. It was, I won't say it's a short-lived fame, but now it's advanced so much that previously it was just like giving out random results where you're just like, I'm never gonna build this. It
Yeah.
looks fancy, but I'm never going to build this. But
Okay.
now it has come to a tool where it's like you can give it exact things like, okay, I want exactly this, and this. And now
Mhm.
it's rendering much better because it's getting trained and trained and trained on real data.
Yeah.
So it's about knowing how do you leverage this and like use it for like something which is practically possible.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you can never sell it to an actual client. It's
Yeah.
great for marketing, but it's never going to make you money.
Thank you for saying that. And let's say, out of all this in your journey, the one part again, how we are connected, is that you are also a mentor at Novator. So, at what point, did you decide, or what inspired, to start mentoring? And has it been the most rewarding part, or has it been the challenging part? Anything again that you can share about this experience in your life, being a mentor?
Overall, I would say it's been an amazing journey. It's still
Okay.
going on. I remember I joined somewhere in April 23.
Okay.
Yeah,
All.
April 23, I joined as a industry guide expert. So I didn't
Okay.
join as a mentor.
Okay.
I think I worked for almost, I think till November 23-ish.
Okay.
I was like an industry guide where I was like a part of two cohorts, if I'm not wrong, like cohort two and cohort three, cohort
Okay.
two and cohort four, I think,
Okay.
where I was just meant like an industry guide. And then I've always had a knack for like teaching and
Mm.
sharing my knowledge because I've been there, when you don't have tools to teach you something what you want to get better at. I've been there. I've learned it the hard way. And
Yeah.
what motivated me the most is I also learned from the students. I've learned a lot from the other mentors as well.
Okay.
So again, networking, talking with a lot of people, learning new tools, staying connected with, oh, this is also happening, that is also happening. So I think it was a really great journey
Mm-hmm.
where I feel what's the best part of Novator and which got me hooked onto like it's not just like teaching and like, but it's also like it's shrinking down 4 to 5 years of learning into 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
It is allowing you to stay ahead of the curve
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're gonna start learning, because we teach a lot of different aspects, we are not just teaching grind or grasshopper. We are
Mm-hmm.
teaching you a bit beyond it, like how to use it and how to leverage it. How, because these are the skills which the industry is asking right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it will help you push at least 30 to 40% immediately.
Yeah.
And there are challenges. I still remember I've even taught a person, I think he was in his 50s, if I'm not wrong. I was
Okay.
teaching him, like he was also one of the students. I learned a
Mm-hmm.
lot from him as well. I've learned a lot from my other students as well. So it's always a give and take where I share my knowledge, and during the course I also learn from them. So this whole sharing knowledge is something which really that's what I enjoy the best at Novator. That you have an industry, you have a network, and I think it's a growing community now, and you
Yeah.
never know in the future. I've actually worked with two of the other mentors as well on smaller projects for myself.
Wow.
So through
Yeah.
Novator, I actually met a lot of people who are very amazing at what they do. And I was like, I actually did one project with one of the other industry guys. We are great friends now. We do actually 2 to 3 projects a year together in computation.
Okay.
And one, I also did like one project with one of the lead, like another mentor. And it was really great, because they have knowledge. And I
Mm-hmm.
think one thing I've always been a part of, that collaborating is one way to move faster.
Yeah.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, because reinvention takes a lot of years. And by that time, now the way tech is moving, you will become obsolete in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to take like a year to learn something and then deliver, it is already obsolete. So rather collaborate with people and then get better ahead of the curve. Let's put it this way.
You have said many great points, and we are so glad to have you as part of this community, where we feel that it is making you feel that you're also giving and also taking at the same time. Like you said, it's a give and take between the community because we are growing it every day. So, and on that note, my last question is like, if you have to describe the Novators program or anybody who's willing to join the program, how can they make the most of it?
I'll use the experience of what I did my master's. Day
Okay.
one, I literally went to the person and like, I want to know this.
Okay.
So like treat Novator as any other master's program. It's not a side thing which you're doing. Do it full diligently and come with a pure focus. If
Mhm.
you want, take 1 or 2 weeks to
Okay.
really hunt down every information possible. Talk
Okay.
with maybe other graduates. There's a lot out there. Like if you just go to LinkedIn page, you will find at least 20 people who have graduated from that course because they have tagged Novator and all.
Yeah.
So network with a lot of people, talk with a lot of people, and then align of what do you want. Do a
Understood.
goal setting. That's what we also do in kickoffs. We do goal settings.
Yeah.
We try to tell the students like, okay, have a really clear focus of what you want to get to, because then you
Mhm.
can leverage. You're more focused, and then you are not just learning the tools. That's a part of it, but you're also like moving towards a goal. And when you move towards a goal, you get a sense of accomplishment. That okay,
Mhm.
at least I came with this. I aimed for 100%. Maybe I'm at 60 or 70%, and rest 30% I'll do it on by myself. So
Yeah.
do a lot of goal settings, and that will really, really help you to move forward. That's what I did in my masters in TUDelft. I had a proper goal setting. It worked out eventually for me. Grateful for the experiences, and it works out. But if you have a good focus, then it helps you.
Okay. Thank you again. And the last segment is like we have a quick, short, rapid fire questions. Very simple.
Okay,
We just don't want to put you on the spot, but a little fun thing that we want to do. So the
sure.
first question is like, what do you think is your superpower?
Superpower cooking.
Cooking, okay. And then what's the one tool or resource, let's say, that you cannot live without?
Discourse, McNeil.
Okay. And then let's say if you were to start your career today, what is the first thing that you think is something you would focus on?
Join Novitas program.
Thank you guys, not sponsored at all. And what does success mean to you?
Pushing the boundaries every day, learning, like being innovative and like just being hungry and curious every day.
Okay. And any advice that you want to give young professionals who are starting their career in architecture or computational designer, let's say?
I would just say follow your passion.
Okay.
Architecture is this one field and this one domain which can open up to multiple fields. You are not just restricted to AEC, like just construction industry. You can go into product design. You can go into so much more. There are a lot of avenues.
Mm-hmm.
Find where your passion is because you're going to be working at least 30 to 40 years of your life.
Okay.
And if you don't enjoy your work, after a while, the whole point of earning maybe less money or earning other aspects will kill you so much that you'll lose interest.
Yeah.
If you wanna, yeah, excel at something, just find your passion, take some time, do random courses if needed. And yeah, if you'll follow that, then money and everything and other things will follow, you
Okay.
know. But I think find the passion which will help you be happy. And when you like, there's this very random term which David Rutten made. He's the maker of Grasshopper, where like his blog is called as I eat bugs for breakfast.
Okay.
Where his literal logic is like I come up, I find bugs and I squash them
Okay.
in the tool itself. And that's what he enjoys the most. Same. Find that one thing which you would love the most, which you can do for a lot of years, and that's then you'll be happy. You'll have a good work-life balance, and then I think that's one tip I can give.
Yeah. And the last question is, what does you think about when I say the phrase build a better tomorrow?
Build a better tomorrow. I think all I think is how can you use tools to predict the future,
Okay.
give those insights to your client
Okay.
so that they can make better decisions for the next tomorrow because they are the decision makers.
Okay.
You are a part of the process, but if you can help them see the future with data,
Okay.
that's where I think your biggest contribution is as a computational designer or an architect or just as a person.
Yeah, I think this is something I'm going to take it down for sure. Take it. This is the greatest takeaway from the conversation that we have. So thank you so much, Siddharth. It has been, really fun and exciting, and obviously talking about it's been more insightful about your journey. So thank you for being with us today. And I think you are very curious, determined, and definitely pushing, boundaries at what you do and inspiring others also to do it while shaping the future of AEC. So thank you so much for taking the time out and sharing your journey with us. And I think this is it. But if anybody is more interested to know more about you, or I think if they want any kind of support, we'll be glad to help you. Anything that you want to add, Siddhant?
I'm always happy to help.
Great.
I'm always curious to just talk with people. So
Okay.
they can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. Like students right now still reach out to me when they graduated in cohort two. I'm still in connect with them where they send me random things and I still talk with them because
Yeah.
I learn new things from them. So always happy to help. But thank you so much, Anusha. I think it was a great conversation. I actually never reflected back on like my entire life. And this was more like, oh, it's actually a long way.
Yeah, definitely. Because, like you said, there are so many personal and professional milestones that we achieve that we never really think about or celebrate them about. So, I think this is a great opportunity to get to know each other and, maybe we'll connect more and do more of this. And equally, at the same time, I think viewers must have also resonated with some parts of it. So, I am hoping that, somebody will make a better decision, with the story. And I hope anybody, if they can also comment the takeaways from this episode that you liked, or maybe willing to explore more, we are again happy to read them out and stay connected with you as well. So share it with other friends and professionals if you think they will definitely like this. So until next time, let's keep building. See you soon. Thank you
Yes.
so
Bye
much.
bye.
Great day.
Bye.
Bye.